If you're deciding between Identity Guard and LifeLock for keeping you and your family safe from identity theft, then the answer is simple. Identity Guard is going to be the better choice for most people out there, and I'll show you why in this video. But whoever you sign up with, LifeLock, Identity Guard, or otherwise, check out my links in the video description for my latest deals and recommendations. Now, I use 7 of these identity theft protection companies so that I can really understand how they all work and how they're there to help you when things go south. And while Identity Guard isn't my favorite, it's definitely a pretty good option, especially if you just want a bare bones identity theft protection plan at a great price. Their dark web monitoring is excellent, as you'll see later in this video. If you want something more comprehensive, and especially if you want to cover your spouse, your parents, and your kids, then Aura is going to be an even better option. And Aura actually owns Identity Guard, so a lot of what you're getting is quite similar. I just think Aura is a better deal. LifeLock, on the other hand, is kind of near the bottom of the list. It's not that they're absolutely worthless, it's just that there are quite a few better options out there. At least 5 in my experience. But we'll dig deep here and put Identity Guard and LifeLock head to head in their monitoring capabilities and fraud resolution. And of course, we'll consider everything in light of their pricing structures. Most people hate this part, so I'm putting it at the front and blazing through it fast so I can get back to the good stuff. And the reality is it's really important, otherwise it wouldn't bother making you sit through it. One of 2 major reasons why LifeLock really pales in comparison to other identity theft protection companies is that their customer support really leaves a lot to be desired. You get sent to an obvious call center, you're read scripted responses, and you're left with your head hurting, wondering why you even called. It's kind of like when you have to call Comcast to troubleshoot your internet. Not so much fun, and definitely not the kind of support you're looking for when you're sweating bullets because someone opened a credit card in your name and took it for a spin. My experiences with LifeLock are the main reason I started vetting the support teams of these different identity theft protection companies in the first place. And luckily, most of them have excellent support teams. Identity Guard does. Their agents really know their stuff, and they've always been incredibly helpful and thorough in my experiences with them. So now let's dive into monitoring. Like all these identity theft protection companies, to get started monitoring your personal information with Identity Guard and LifeLock, you first need to input your information that you want to monitor. Now, they allow you to monitor quite a few different types of personal information, but typically your name, SSN, and birth date at least are monitored by default. You can also add things like phone numbers, driver's license numbers, gamer tags, and so on. Worth noting is that LifeLock only allows you to monitor 5 email addresses, which isn't quite enough for me. Identity Guard allows you to monitor 10. And once you input the personal information you want to monitor, they'll start to perform all sorts of scans and send you alerts if they come across your personal information. Both Identity Guard and LifeLock have tiered plan structures, so the different types of scans they'll perform will vary based on the plan you've signed up for. A lot of identity theft protection companies do this, and I'm not a huge fan of it. I prefer all-inclusive plans like you get with Aura and also with Complete ID. But immediately upon signing up with Identity Guard, they'll submit opt-out requests with data brokers on your behalf to cut down on email spam, junk mail, robocalls, those types of things. And as they come across your information with more data brokers, they'll submit more opt-out requests for you on an ongoing basis. LifeLock also scans to find instances where your personal information is posted with data brokers, but they only point you to where you can submit opt-out requests yourself. If you want them to do that on your behalf, you have to pay extra. And both Identity Guard and LifeLock will monitor your credit records, so you'll get an alert if there are any inquiries or new accounts opened in your name. But on their baseline plans, it's only 1 bureau credit monitoring. If you want monitoring with all 3 bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, you'll have to upgrade to Identity Guard's mid-tier total plan and LifeLock's top-tier Ultimate Plus plan. Identity Guard will also send you a notification if someone tries to open a utility account like an electric service in your name, and LifeLock did just start offering this on all their plans as well. Both Identity Guard and LifeLock will perform public record monitoring so that you'll get alerts if someone tries to add their name to your home deed, or if someone uses your name during an arrest, but you'll need an upgraded plan with both companies to unlock this. And of course, what a lot of people find most interesting is the dark web monitoring, and I'll show you what Identity Guard and LifeLock turn up for me on the dark web in a few minutes here. But there are just a few more aspects of monitoring that I want to cover first, and I want to circle back and dig a bit deeper into one of my favorite things to analyze, which is the credit monitoring. Now, as I mentioned before, ideally with identity theft protection, you're getting 3 bureau credit monitoring. That way you really get the most responsive and thorough coverage on your credit report activity. But beyond that, it's really best if you can also get access to your Vantage scores from all 3 bureaus, typically on a monthly basis at least, as well as access to your annual credit reports right in your dashboard. And a nice added touch is a credit lock so that you can prevent unwanted inquiries into your credit file with the click of a button, without having to head over to the bureaus directly to initiate a freeze. Aura provides all of this on all of their plans, as does Complete ID. But with Identity Guard, you need their top-tier Ultra plan to unlock all of it, although you get 3 bureau credit monitoring and monthly Vantage scores from Experian on their mid-tier total plan. And actually, on their top-tier plan, you only get the Vantage scores from Experian. Experian, not all three bureaus. And with LifeLock, you do get annual Vantage scores from all three bureaus on their top-tier Ultimate Plus plan, but never monthly. And their mid-tier Advantage plan only includes one bureau credit monitoring and a credit lock. No scores and reports at all. As for transaction monitoring, if you want to link your bank accounts and credit cards so that you can monitor your financial activity all in one place, both Identity Guard and LifeLock offer this, but you do need upgraded plans. It allows you to set transaction thresholds so you'll get alerts of any charges that are over a specified limit, so you can look into them right away and make sure they're legit, and take action if they're not. And before we get into my dark web hits, I just want to mention a few other perks these companies have to offer. With Identity Guard, all their plans are supposed to include safe browsing, which is a VPN and antivirus, although for some reason they aren't active on my value plan. I haven't looked into this because I use other solutions, but if it's something you're interested in, you might want to get in touch with Identity Guard to make sure. LifeLock doesn't offer this, probably because Norton has other products for VPN and antivirus that they'd prefer you sign up for. I mean, come on, who hasn't heard of Norton Antivirus? Maybe just those young whippersnappers born after 1990. God, that brings me back. I miss the good old days of AIM. Identity Guard also includes a password manager, and while LifeLock doesn't have one integrated, Norton does offer a free password manager for anyone to use. Identity Guard's top-tier plan includes social media monitoring, so you can get alerts if someone takes over your accounts and starts posting inappropriately under your name. And on the top-tier Ultimate Plus plan, LifeLock offers this as well. And last, LifeLock's mid-tier plans and higher come with a payday loan lock, which is much like a credit lock but for short-term loans. Alright, now for the fun stuff. Let's see what Identity Guard and LifeLock turn up for my personal information on the dark web. I always monitor the same personal information across all the identity theft protection companies that I use. In the case of companies like LifeLock that don't allow me to monitor all of my email addresses, I make sure to leave out the ones that don't turn up any hits with any of the other companies. Let's start with Identity Guard. They find a total of 18 dark web alerts for my personal information. And of those 18, 9 of them are unique. All of these hits are leaked login credentials, typically my usernames and passwords that were made available as a result of a breach. And luckily for me, it's nothing worse than that. For the time being anyway. Many of these 9 unique hits are from websites you probably know, like Adobe, MySpace, and Dropbox. The username and password for one of my Gmail accounts is even out there for the world to see. That's awesome. The remaining non-unique hits are composed of breach compilations, which are aggregates of unsuspecting victims' login credentials, kinda like a public library for identity thieves. So how does that compare? Well, of the 7 identity theft protection companies I've used, only one turns up more than Identity Guard. That's Identity Force. They find a total of 20 dark web hits, and 10 of them are unique. Now, dark web monitoring isn't a perfect science, and one company is always finding some hits that another company isn't, but there are definitely examples of good monitoring and bad monitoring. One great example of bad dark web monitoring is Identity IQ. They turn up absolutely nothing for me on the dark web. And the next worst of the 7 identity theft protection companies I've used, well, unfortunately that's LifeLock. They find a total of 8 dark web alerts, though they are all unique, and they're not even finding my leaked Gmail credentials, which is definitely the most important one of all my dark web hits. So really, Identity Guard takes the cake in terms of dark web monitoring. They're sitting right at the top alongside Identity Force and Aura. Now, let's not forget about fraud resolution. While Identity Guard has a great customer support team like I mentioned at the top of this video, the amount of help you're going to get from them is limited unless you upgrade to their top tier Ultra plan. The Ultra plan gives you access to their white glove fraud resolution team that basically does all the heavy lifting for you in the event that you're a victim of identity theft. By contrast, Aura includes this on all their plans. But otherwise, you'll get great support from Identity Guard, but you're probably going to have to do all the legwork, which could mean hours upon hours of filling out forms, making phone calls, and grinding through fine print. With LifeLock, all their plans give you access to US-based identity restoration specialists, but there's no mention of white glove service from what I can see. And in terms of financial backing, all Identity Guard plans come with $1 million in identity theft insurance, which is fairly standard as a minimum across identity theft protection companies. LifeLock plans start with $1,050,000 in coverage, and as you increase tiers, you can get up to $3 million in coverage per adult. Although they do allot their coverage into different buckets for lawyers and experts, stolen funds reimbursement, and personal expense reimbursement. And if you do choose LifeLock's family plans, keep in mind that $1 million for lawyer and experts is collective, so the coverage isn't really as good as it looks. While more insurance is definitely nice to have, personally I don't think it makes up for poor support and subpar monitoring. If you just want stripped down personal information monitoring, then Identity Guard's value plan is a pretty good deal. But as soon as you go above the stripped down plans from Identity Guard and LifeLock, from a pricing standpoint, Aura immediately starts to make more sense. Whatever you choose for identity theft protection, remember to check out my links in the video description for my latest deals and recommendations. You can see my in-depth reviews of Identity Guard and LifeLock right here on this channel, and of course Aura 2, and comparisons of them all, and so much more in the queue. So stay tuned.